Go ahead, William. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, good morning, one and all. I take this opportunity to welcome all the participants and the speakers for today's webinar on Introduction to NADCAP Certification and Reverse Engineering and Component Indigenization Procedure. Before we go into session, I just wanted to tell you a few rules that we need to maintain to have a quality program. I request all the participants to kindly keep your microphones on mute so that will not distract the session today. And also, it will be good if you can turn on the camera for a better quality of the program. And if you have any questions, request the participants to kindly post it in the chat box so that the speakers can take it and respond to your questions at the end of the session. Not taking much time, I'd like to welcome all the participants, and I'd like to introduce the speakers for today. For the first session on reverse engineering and component indigenization procedure, I'd like to welcome and introduce Mrs. Vaishnavi Vignesh Raja. She's the director at EQUAD. She's the director at EQUAD Engineering Services, and she's a vice president operations strategy at SICO Control Private Limited. She's a gold medalist in chemical engineering, and she also holds a master degree in MBA entrepreneurship from Johannesburg. She previously worked as a procurement category lead in the field of industrial and process specialist, and she has supported in customizing market intelligence to more than 500 clients there. And currently, she manages two firms. The one is EQUAD Engineering Services, and another is SICO Controls Private Limited. And the EQUAD Engineering Services, where they're doing the reverse engineering product prototyping, design proofing for several industries like Indian defense, healthcare, nanotechnology, and Indian aerospace. And the other firm, SICO Control Private Limited, it is a sole Indian manufacturer of high temperature oxygen analyzer, and it is holding the monopoly in Indian market, where they have clients like IOCL, BPCL, Bill, Reliance, etc. And she also has other positions, like she's also a mentor of women entrepreneur on social economic project, and also she's a secretary of SSN Alumni Association. She has also won award like Icon of Tamil Nadu and a recipient of Rising Star Performer. She's also the best analyst. She has also won the Best Analyst Award. And she's also won the award like Knowledge Contributor Award for exceptional contribution to thought leadership framework. So she has a rich experience in the field, and I'd like to welcome and I hand over the session to you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. William, for the introduction. First of all, thanks a lot. It's a financial year ending. Meena Goyal ma'am, always says, time is the best gift you can give somebody. You've all taken time off to come to the program and listen to us, give some insights. So thanks a lot for taking your time off and being part of this event. A few thank yous in order. First of all, to Mr. Shankar of Metallic Bellows. Sir introduced me to AIDAT. Franklin, who has been coordinating a lot of requests from my side in the initial days to connect me to stakeholders within the AIDAT community. So thank you. I will be taking, through the indigenization process. I also have with me Mr. Jayaraman, who is a 1974 IIT Madras. He graduated from IIT Madras at 1974. He's a metallurgist by background. So any case studies that we present, we are open to taking questions, like William said, on the chat box, and we will address it towards the end of the session after Mr. Karthi has also spoken. The next session has also spoken. So with that, I'll start sharing my screen and show the presentation that I want to be sharing with the speakers today. I hope my screen is visible. So the topic given to us, was reverse engineering. Dr. Christopher told me, they don't like the word reverse engineering. They prefer re-engineering, for the component indigenization. So we will be addressing that. The typical segments that we will be following include, what is the fundamental approach that people take and what is a systematic approach. And, in the present approach, where are the, errors that happen that we've noted. And then, of course, the potential or, the whole Make in India process. So a quick background about EQuad. EQuad is an engineering design firm. If you look at our standard offerings, it includes, 2D drafting, modeling, stage drawings, QC reporting, SOP writing, PCB design, and all of that. Custom services to our clients include, product automation, re-engineering, design indigenization, engineering analysis like CFD and FEA services, design proofing services, and communication and data acquisition modules, SPM development, test rig development. These are all a lot of the services that we believe that manufacturers would typically need in their process. In earlier of our talk at IIT Madras, I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, again, the moderator, which was Meena Goyal ma'am, indicated that, industries were transgressing from, lean manufacturing and preferring outsourcing. So with these plethora of services, one of the things that we've gained definitely thanks to our prolific client list has been the trust and reliability, because these are all sensitive information. There, of course, is a confidentiality that is always prevalent, when it comes to any design work that is outsourced. Definitely, are we probably the least expensive in the market? Maybe not. Sometimes maybe yes. But there is something that every person that has engaged with us will tell you, that there's value for money, because we always look at a long-term association, especially in defense and aerospace. We know that the lead time or the cycle time is pretty lengthy, and therefore we always look at the long-term association. And definitely at EQuad, we've been extremely flexible with engagement, where clients have engaged us on an hourly basis, daily basis, weekly basis, and on a monthly or project basis. Before I even begin the session, like, I thank all of you for joining us for the event today. My biggest thank yous to all the clients, a lot of them part of AIDAT community, like Metallic Bellows, Bastrik Mechanical Labs, Polyhose, Perfect Gears, Ayyappan Industries, who have trusted us with their problem statements and believed that EQuad could support them in resolving their problems. So thank you a lot for all my clients. These are some of the letters of recommendation, especially if you look at Metallic Bellows. We've recently supported them on indigenization process, which is the very topic that we are going to be addressing today. So thank you, Shankar sir. I think without his motivation and boost, we wouldn't, have traveled this distance. So thank you. With no further ado, we are going to dive straight into the topic, which is, indigenization and, the whole Make in India. How do we re-engineer? So the first segment of the talk is going to be, how did EQuad even get into indigenization? So in the introduction, Mr. William told that we have a parent company called Seco Controls. We are based out of Perungudi, and about 35 or like 40 years ago, this product was not available in India. It was actually manufactured in the United States, and I think a firm in Europe, and it was not available. And when our MD traveled to the United States and wanted to bring this energy saving equipment back to India, there was the cost of importing it and selling it here in India did not ideally make sense. So, the manufacturer in the United States said, why can't you develop it on your own? So our tryst with indigenization typically started 40 years ago. And till today, in the age of, being able to copy and replicate, we've been the only Indian OEM which is approved by, National Thermal Power Corporation, who manufactures this particular item, the high temperature oxygen analyzer, to the extent where open tender has now become a single tender. Our tryst with indigenization started way back then. So how were we able to develop a product which was performance wise, quality wise, cost wise, extremely competitive with the global market, and be able to sustain for these many years? And if you look at a tryst with the defense and aerospace, to be specific, Micro Precision, our very first client in this defense and aerospace domain, who actually, when they encountered a problem about 4 years ago, they came to Equad and they said, this is the problem that we are having. Do you think you can help resolve it? Because we've tried A, B, C, D, E. We've not been able to resolve it. And what started as solving a minor problem for them, they continue to be our clients. We continue to develop, SPMs for them. We continue to do a lot of engineering design services for Micro Precision. So we started believing that product design and development calls for a very systematic approach. And with that approach being successful, sustainability in this business is going to be high. And that is how, our tryst with indigenization started. So when we talk about, engineering and re-engineering, what are these terminologies? So we would like to set the context of these two terminologies. One, engineering definitely involves designing of a product from the basics based on a requirement. The requirement is already set. There is an envelope of which the product has to be delivering in terms of specifications. So the design takes place. That's engineering. Now, re-engineering or reverse engineering involves a process of designing or improving a product based on an already available product. So a lot of OEMs that come to us say that we have a product and we need to be able to improve the product or design a similar product with similar performance and deliverables of the product. So truth is, and every OEM and every member would accept that it is not duplication or copying per se. So designing from scratch is far easier than re-engineering a product which is already available. And in reality, the engineering ability of reverse engineering has to be more than direct designing, because there is a nuance that is involved in the design aspect of the product. So when we re-engineer, we know the product, we know the dimensions of the product, but do we know how the nuances of design was evolved into becoming that product? We don't know that. So we typically at Equad call it knowledge by theory and knowledge by experience. And knowledge by experience is the know-how, the how to do it, that comes from experience. The design knowledge plus the know-how will always result in know why. So which is very crucial in re-engineering a product. Typically, because if we don't know why a certain part is there, why a certain assembly is so, the why, the functionality of a particular part or assembly plays a very crucial part in the re-engineering process. So for example, when I say nuances in design, these are 4 examples that people would probably be able to relate to. One is, everybody knows a carburetor, it's a direct injection system. We can get all the dimensions, but if the functional dimensions and tolerance are not calculated, the prototype iterations would be multiple. Let's take, a spring, a seal, an actuation. It depends on a various factors. It can be the design window, it can be the friction, it can be what is the allowable leak, for that spring or seal. And a simple copy without the engineering calculations can result in performance issues. Then there is also, let's take an example, a valve. It requires an actuation and it depends on the friction of the stem, the force, the flow area. There has to be alignment, for all the tolerances. And without, let's say, for example, an FEA or a CFD analysis, there would be iterations and there could be rejections. What often gets missed is the fact that the development cost is huge in these processes, which is a well-established fact. But if we invest in the initial stages, like developing a concept test equipment or a functional test equipment before going to the actual manufacturing, it largely develops the overall development cost of a product. So what is, the current or, the conventional approach to re-engineering versus a systematic approach? First, let me talk about the present approach. What we all typically observe is we get a component or a subassembly. There is a dismantling of the component. Then there is a 3D scanning that is done to get, the micron level precision in terms of dimensions. Then it is spent into spectrography to understand the material properties of that item. And then, we test for performance. When it's prototyped, we test for performance. Now, when we test for performance, what happens is there could be dimensional error. It goes on a trial and error until the performance is satisfactory. Sometimes the result is positive, more than 50% of the time the result is positive, it's great. But, the 20 to 30%, the trials are very expensive. And I say expensive in terms of cost, more importantly, in terms of time. We don't factor in the time effort that goes into the trial and error. That's very expensive. Sometimes when we do this, the results are also negative. The product or the assembly doesn't function as per expectation. So there is trouble in terms of rejection rates. There is a very long lead time, and probably there is also a higher manufacturing cost. So with this present approach, I want to get into case studies on how a conventional approach vis-a-vis a systematic approach has resolved problem statements for our clients extremely easily. We are not saying the iterations are zero, but we are only saying we can considerably reduce the iterations, because the knowledge by experience, the knowledge of by theory is married into each other, and it makes the trial a lot lower in terms of the iteration. So I move into case studies. Definitely, because of confidentiality, I can't divulge too much details of the exact component. But case study 1 is a very high speed, greater than 10,000 RPM equipment. It had a very small clearance. The pressure was about 40 bar. And, for want of a compressor, an air cylinder was used. And the problem was that there were scoring marks on the stator and the rotor. Now, conventional method that was, adopted was they had tried to change the material. They had tried to increase the hardness of the material. They would, go and check the dynamic balancing. They would try and improve the polishing. All these methods were tried. Now, when we went ahead and, got involved, we said, first, let's study the clearance. Second, the deflection possible was calculated. Scientific engineering calculations was done for the possible deflection. Then we established, that is the calculation established, that even an ill-balanced component should ideally not deflect the rotor to a stationary portion. Then the particle which can be carried by air was calculated. It was also possible to carry the air particles larger than the gap, between the two. Finally, we said, let us design a filter. The filter was introduced and the problem got resolved. If there are any doubts in this case study, we welcome you to type it in the chat box, which we will read and clarify at the end of both the sessions. I'll move on quickly to the next case study. There was this hole, in this case study. Why is there a hole? There was a small hole, and it was a constant question of why this hole is there. Is it a steady state? Is it a non-steady state? It was basically a valve for control purposes. It required very little actuator force for operation by electricity. Was the problem solved? Yes, it was solved because we found out why this hole was there. So the conventional approach was the fact that they needed to operate it with a very large hydraulic and pneumatic actuator. But in our systematic approach, we said, the pilot operates a very small opening, which creates a pressure difference, a delta P, which thereby causes a large force for the main operation. In this process, of creating a delta P and a large force subsequently required a fast initial opening. So in the inner chamber was, thought of, which should also act up, double up as a piston. The design was such that there was a calculated air pocket. We literally calculated that there must be an air pocket when it closed. So when the pilot opens, the movement of the liquid and then the air caused the formation of a delta P, which was wanted in the outer chamber. And this process So when the pilot opens, the movement of liquid and then the air caused a delta P in the outer chamber. And this was again, the process was controlled by these small two holes which were present and was later covered by flexible rubber. So how did the problem get resolved? Without clear understanding of the functionality of that rubber or of that, hole, the safe window of dimensions, which would have been difficult to calculate, but which we did, would have resulted in very high rejection of that entire setup. So this was how this case study was resolved. The last case study is where we built a test equipment. So most OEMs, when they develop a part or a component, there are several acceptance test procedures that needs to get accepted. And for those, they often want to design test rigs or, SPMs to test. So in this case study, there was a case where the material had to be tested under repeated, hydraulic tests, which were cyclic, and the test equipment had to be developed. The problem that was faced, that the conventional oil-based testing had problems in flexibility of programming. And of course, there was a need for solenoids and a centralized hydraulic power backup. Now we said, okay, considering the liquid is non-compressible, we thought of two approaches. One is a screw-based piston system for pressure greater than 100 bar, which required, a steady predetermined steps. And then also a lever-based system with fast cycling, because the tests were hydraulic in nature and were cyclic. A lever-based system using the first principles of, physics or engineering. So the prime mover of, the piston system was a standard automobile wiper motor. And the prime mover for the second system was a half HP standard motor without the need for any hydraulic pump. And it, resolved the requirement of a very complicated test equipment system. So as, the case studies have shown that the nuances of re-engineering could probably boil down to 4. One is understanding of the requirements, because once the requirement is very clearly charted, re-engineering becomes that much more simpler. Second, when we always re-engineer, we always look at a normal operation, because the design has to function during normal operation. There are also reviews during the re-engineering process where we say in abnormal conditions, in operations under abnormal conditions, how would the design of the component function? So we also take abnormal conditions of operation into account while re-engineering the product. Definitely, when we look at re-engineering, we look at 4 or 5 distinct stages of the development. 1 being a concept prototype, 2 being the functional prototype, 3 being the working or the operational prototype, 4 being the commercial prototype, and then we go for the first batch prototype. And what is absolutely crucial in all of our experiences with re-engineering or developing, a product from scratch. Developing a product from scratch or re-engineering or developing these test equipments or SPMs, special purpose machineries, is it becomes very crucial to list the functions of each part and the logic for each dimension. Be it without the understanding the functionality of the part or the component or the assembly or the sub-assembly, re-engineering, like the earlier segment of my talk said, re-engineering requires far more detailed nuance of engineering and design than designing it from scratch. So when re-engineering is taken up and we understand the functionality of the product or the component, confirmation by theory, the theory is confirmed by experimentation, and the result is interpreted by means of theory. So without fundamental engineering calculations, without your CFD-FE analysis to substantiate the calculations, that throws out the gaps that are currently prevalent in re-engineering, and identifying the gaps is the very first step towards problem solving. And I hope with this, we've neared the end of our method of re-engineering. And what is it? My contact details are available. Of course, we are in the AIDAT group. But what is it that we promise is to our clients and to everybody that's listening is transparency in terms of sharing the functionality, and most definitely not a vendor, but a collaborator. Because ideally, we're all sitting on the same side of the table to develop a product, to indigenize a product for India, for our defense and for our aerospace. So We believe that when we partner it towards re-engineering or indigenization components, be it Italian or Russian or French, so many designs have come to us, so many products from these countries have come to us, and we are very grateful to the OEMs and government bodies that have trusted us to indigenize the design for India. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your input. And now I'd like to introduce the second speaker for session on Introduction to NADCAP Certification. Mr. Karthik Tyagarajan is a lead consultant, Nucleus Consultants. He has rich experience over past 16 years. He has been practicing management system, providing consulting, training, and auditing service for various management systems, including AS 9100 series, AS 1300 Aero Engine, QMS, NADCAP, and other sector specific management system for railway, medical devices, automatic, etc. He has consulted and trained 80 plus companies for AS 9100 RVD, which includes MOD, PSUs like BDL, KMML, Midani, DRDO Lab, Chemilac, Tier 1 and 2 and 3 ASD suppliers in India. He has consulted and trained 12 plus companies for NADCAP, which includes the commodities like electronics, welding, fluid distribution system, NDT, chemical processing, heat treatment, etc. He has also trained, is also a trainer for certification bodies and Quality Council of India. Thank you, sir. I hand over the session to you, sir.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. I'll be sharing my screen. Please confirm, is it visible?
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Yeah, so welcome all to this session, Introduction to NADCAP Accreditation. So I'm just going to cover about what is this NADCAP, why industry is going for NADCAP. NADCAP is for what commodities, what are the commodities available for us to get NADCAP, and how to obtain NADCAP accreditation. This is what I'm going to cover. See, this NADCAP, previously it was known as National Aerospace Defense Contractor Accreditation Program. The name itself clearly says what it is. It's meant for defense contractor if they want to do business with US Department of Defense. Later it became an international program. Now it has become a NADCAP. It is industry managed program. When you say industry, there are three sectors: aviation industry, space industry, defense industry. These industries, their prime contractors, even their suppliers, regulators, all come together. They come up with a common approach. So they wanted to have a certification process for critical processes, products, and systems. So they come up with a program called as NADCAP accreditation. So this is one worldwide cooperative program, consensus approach with the industry to approve critical processes, products, and systems. That's what NADCAP is all about. This NADCAP program is part of PRI, Performance Review Institute. This PRI is an organization which was formed in 90s by SAE. We are all well aware about SAE because SAE releases a lot of standards. They have a lot of programs. When you are doing business with the aerospace industry, you came across with different type of SAE standard, AMS specs, ERP specs, and all, right? So this NADCAP is an independent certification for a manufacturing process. When you say manufacturing process, there are different type of manufacturing process. So this NADCAP program recognize the critical processes. And NADCAP offers, PRI offers multiple program. NADCAP is one of their program. For every sector, they have a program. For medical devices, they have Metacred. For transportation, power generation, they have TPG program. QPL is another important program made by PRI. If any flying part where you want to get qualified product listing, so that program is also offered by PRI. And recently, PRI come up with a new program called as PRI CAP, Counterfeit Avoidance Accreditation Program. Like this, a lot of programs offered by PRI. So this session is only on NADCAP. I think I'm pretty sure you are recognizing these organizations. I'm listing some of the prime contractor who subscribes NADCAPs, which means if you want to do business with these people, either you are tier 1 or tier 2, tier 3, doesn't matter. If you have any critical processes in that part, this part must be processed in a NADCAP accredited facility. That's the requirement. Maybe I'll put in some of the few logos, you can recognize them well. These are the different players from aviation industry, space industry, and defense industry. So this NADCAP program is made by them for them. And this NADCAP have offices at multiple places, but right now everything is managed through a website called as AIDAT.com. I'll be throw some light on after end of the session. In Asia, they have offices in China and Japan. And there are some myth rumors about NADCAP. Few people say it's American system, few people say it's European system, it is expensive, the auditors are very tough, right? There is no reduction in customers audit. Even though I have NADCAP, customers will come and audit our processes. When I do NADCAP, obviously it's going to consume a lot of time, productivity is going to be decreased, but these are all purely rumor, that's not the fact. Some of the term I would like to introduce to this forum, because through this session we'll come up hearing these terms. Subscriber is nothing but the companies what we have shown, right? The major OEMs, primes, contractor, they are the subscriber. They are subscribing this NADCAP program. Suppliers are like manufacturers, like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, whoever into this AST business. eAuditNet, this is a one website. The entire NADCAP program is managed through this particular website, eauditnet.com. And ITAR, EAR, if you are dealing with the US Department of Defense, US products, there are some ITAR part. And QML, if your company is certified for NADCAP, your name will be listed in this qualified manufacturer list. And QPL is again, it's a product listing so that your product can be directly purchased by the consumable. So these are the different terms. When we walk through this NADCAP, we may heard about this. And there is one more person, staff engineer. When you are applying to PRI for NADCAP, they will be assigning a person as a staff engineer. So individual member who is the contact point for us with respect to getting the audit dates, any clarification on the audits. These are some of the terms I would like to introduce before entering into the NADCAP process. So typically NADCAP audit is nothing but they have a checklist for each commodity, and these checklists are in line with the customer specific requirements. And these checklists are purely commodity specific. So audit will be performed by the expert, subject matter experts on that particular commodity. This is not like our quality management system audit or some other quality system audit. This is more on technically focused audit. That's why we call it as NADCAP accreditation. When you say accreditation, you need to prove your technical competence. That's what all about this accreditation is. And this is the certificate looks like. If you look at any NADCAP accredited certificate, it says your company is awarded for NADCAP for which processes. And who developed the checklist, who gives NADCAP accreditation, everything is managed by task group. The task group is nothing but members from the industry. They are part of this task group. When I say members, they are subject matter experts working in this AST industry. They are part of this task group. And there is a third party independent auditors. They are also qualified by this task group. They will be assigning us to conduct audit. They will perform the audit as per the developed checklist. So based on this checklist, finally, the auditors will perform the audit. Based on the audit outcome, task groups gives the accreditation. So this is what all about the concept of NADCAP. So when you say task group, there are various people across the globe are part of this task group. When I say task group, they are not only from prime contractor, even supplier subject matter experts can be also be part of this task group. They can contribute themselves on developing checklist, managing the NADCAP program and all. So task group take care of everything. These are the different task groups available. For example, NDT, heat treatment, welding, chemical processing, each manufacturing process, there are subject matter experts and they have their own task group members. Finally, they will take the decision. The whole NADCAP process, starting from developing audit checklist, selection of the NADCAP auditors, then qualification of the NADCAP auditors, performing the audit, reviewing the audit results, reviewing the NC closures. Typically what will happen in most of the management system audit, if the auditor has raised a non-conformity, the non-conformity is reviewed by the auditor, right? Whereas in NADCAP, it is not the case. The auditor role is perform the audit, identify the conformity and non-conformity, report it, right? Then the NC closure root cause analysis is done by the task group, which means industry will review it. Based on that conclusion, finally the accreditation is being granted. So the whole program is managed by the industry. So this is how NADCAP accreditation works. These are the different critical processes. Right now, NADCAP is offering the accreditation. It's not only for the processes, even systems, products also NADCAP is being offered. Aerostructure assembly is recently added commodity. Aerospace quality system is, there is another commodity. When it's come to core manufacturing process, we could see structure assembly, chemical processing, coatings, composites, even conventional machining also considered as a critical process in aerospace industry. Then elastomer seal, electronics. FAA is again recently added a commodity. This aerostructure assembly FAA is very recently added into this. Fluid distribution system, heat treatment, material testing laboratory, for that also there is a NADCAP accreditation available. Even our measurement and inspection, when you are using CMM, even for CMM also we'll consider using CMM. Measuring via CMM is also considered as a critical process. For some of the subscriber needs NADCAP for that. And metallic material manufacturing recently added, forgings, castings and all covered under this. Then non-conventional machining and surface enhancement. And recently surface enhancement is separated now. There's a separate commodity available. Of course, NDT, sealants, welding, the non-metallic. So multiple commodities are now presently covered under NADCAP accreditations, which means your subscriber flow down this requirement either through their contract or their quality requirements or their engineering drawing. They will specifically mention that this part must be processed at NADCAP accredited facility. If you have in-house facility, but still you have to comply this NADCAP accreditation. So this is how the NADCAP requirement have reached the industry. Why a companies need to go for NADCAP? There are a lot of reasons, but the context behind this is we need to have a safe, reliable product. We need to ensure quality, integrity, right? When you are into ASD industry, so we need to demonstrate to the different bodies, either it may be Airworthiness Authority or it may be the customers, right? Even the regulators like EASA, FAA, they are also recognizing this NADCAP program. There are other reasons why a company is going for NADCAP. Not only NADCAP, any certification, why an organization is going for an approval or certification. Either it may be their voluntary decision, or it may be the customer contractual requirement, or it may be the regulatory requirement. But when it's come to NADCAP, most of the time, it will be your customer contractual requirement. And these audits, whatever NADCAP audits, they will do in-depth technical process audit. And they will utilize only the subject matter experts for this audit. After some time, you can realize the cost benefit because the world-class best practices are adopted in the checklist, and the checklist also considers the industry standards. So once we enter into this NADCAP accreditation process, once you started following this, you can able to get the benefits on later stage. It will going to increase your productivity. It's going to reduce your rejections. It's going to increase your customer satisfaction. A lot of reasons we keep on adding why a company need to go for. And this is one document, maybe not much visible in the screen, but I'll give you the context. This is nothing but Airbus NADCAP accreditation policy. So they made a decision like based on these commodity, either it's commercial aircraft or helicopter or defense space, they start buying part from the NADCAP accredited facilities. Dear participant, can you please mute your mic so that, yeah, thank you. So these are the different commodities. If you look at the recent addition is measurement and inspection. So if you using CMM, if you're directly supplying a part to Airbus, based on the part criticality, they may mandate you should have CMM under M&I for NADCAP. Even forging also, recently the checklist is developed. Slowly it's reached the supply chain. And similar to Airbus, if you take any prime, they have mandated NADCAPs. These are the different primes. We have already seen Airbus. Let's look at others. Honeywell, Lockheed, Aero Engine Industry, Rolls-Royce, Safran. So most of the primes, even the suppliers, tier 1 suppliers, they have mandated NADCAP for the supply chain. So we keep on addressing this. So this is the reason why a company is going for NADCAP. And what exactly in the NADCAP audit checklist? See, audit checklist is made by the task group. This we have already mentioned, right? What basis this checklist are being made? They have taken industry standards. There are a lot of industry standards available. For example, if you take welding, we have AWS standard. If you take electronics industry, we have IPC standard. So there are industry standards. So they took industry standard, and also customer have some additional requirement on that particular process. So these are the two inputs. Based on this and based on the industry requirement, the audit checklist has been developed. In addition to that, NADCAP also publishing audit handbooks. Audit handbooks is nothing but guidelines for us how to interpret those requirements. This is used for auditors, but nothing wrong. Auditor can also explore and interpret it. All these things. One advantage with this entire NADCAP accreditation program is this audit checklist and this audit handbooks are freely available in the eauditnet.com. If a supplier wanted to become NADCAP accredited organization, you can reach to eauditnet.com. You can explore all these things. Based on the audit checklist, the NADCAP auditor will do a job audit in front of you. You have to run the process because it's a critical process approval, right? It's not like a conformity assessment similar to our quality system. You have to demonstrate your technical competence. Most of the checklists are focusing on how you are qualifying your personnel, how you are qualifying your process, how you are qualifying your product, and those contexts, these checklists are addressing it. So this is how the overall audit checklist has been made. They took a customer specific requirement, industry standard, industry itself developed it. And one thing here we can notice, these checklists are periodically reviewed, revised. So we could see a lot of revisions. So as an organization, you have to always look for the latest one. I think every 6 to 8 months, there will be one revision at least in every checklist. So we have to be very focused on this. So these are the different available checklists. Core checklist is for that commodity. For example, core checklist means you are doing welding. There's a core checklist. Slash checklist means within welding, what you do. Is it TIG welding? Is it spot welding? Is it laser beam welding? So we have to specifically mention that. That is what called as slash checklist. And there are supplemental checklists. Supplemental means specific to a customer. So subscriber have some additional requirement that are addressed in the supplemental checklist. So as an organization, core checklist may applicable to you. Then applicable slash checklist based on the what process you have, what infrastructure you have, what is your customer requirement, which part you are selecting for this NADCAP program, what are the capability you have. Based on that, you need to select the applicable checklists. So these are the subscriber specific requirement. So these codes are assigned to these subscribers. For example, if you get a contract from GE, either the product goes to GE and you are supplying to tier 1 industry, they may flow down this requirement to you. So we need to select the core checklist, then the applicable slash checklist, then within that subscriber specific requirement, supplemental requirement. So this is how we have to select your scope. As on today, I could say around more than 4,240 companies are accredited for NADCAP. Once your company is certified for NADCAP, your name will be listed. That is what we call it as QML, Qualified Manufacturer List. This list is also publicly available. What all you need to do is create a user ID in this eauditnet.com and you can explore this data. And who can perform these audits? Of course, NADCAP auditors are available across the globe. In India, we have a lot of auditors on commodities, NDT, welding, heat treatment, chemical processing, composites, electronics. Recently, one person is qualified. Fluid distribution system. In India, we have auditors for these commodities. For other commodities, we have to bring auditors from the other part of the world. And these auditors are having approximately average of 30 years of experience in the particular field, in that particular commodity. That's why I mentioned the subject matter experts. So more than 50 major primes, they have subscribed this. So they wanted to flow down this to across the supply chain. It's not just the direct supplier, the NADCAP is applicable. This is applicable to the supplier, sub-supplier, across the supply chain. This is how the number of commodities have increased. As we mentioned recently, aerostructure assembly, after that first article inspection is recently added, and also one more commodity recently they have added on this metallic material manufacturing of forging, right? So a lot of commodities they have keep on adding. This is the number. You could see the number in Asia is keep on increasing. So how many numbers in Asia got this NADCAP? Initially, it was mainly meant for Americans and Europes are there, and slowly you could see the numbers. And how to get NADCAP? This simple process I would like to put in this particular own flow. So first of all, your customer or your potential customer may mandate that you should have a NADCAP. That is the entry point for you. Then you have to request AIDAT. Yes, we are ready. So before this, you have to do a lot of activity. So identify the applicable checklist, explore the checklist, implement those checklists, ensure that the processes are qualified, equipments are qualified, methods are qualified, you are performing your process according to the industry standard or customer specification, right? After do everything, schedule an audit. NADCAP will assign some auditors. So we have to prepare very well in advance. After that, a third party or the independent auditors, right, from NADCAP, they will come and perform the audit and they will submit the report and they leave the facility. Remember, auditors are not going to review a non-conformity. It is reviewed by the PRI technical staff. If your non-conformants are not up to the mark or it is not fulfilling the RCCA methodology of NADCAP, you have to redo, resubmit it. After that, the entire package goes to task group. Finally, task group grants the accreditation. So this is the process. Once a company has got accreditation, means the accreditation is valid for 2 years. After 2 years, there will be a re-accreditation. If there is any non-conformity, obviously there will be an annual audit. And there is a concept called as merit, which means there is no non-conformity in your second audit or third audit. Your next due is on 18th month. Still you are retaining the zero non-conformity statement. Then your next audit will be on 24th month. And there is a prerequisite here. If you want to go for NADCAP, you should have a basic quality management system, which means AS 9100. If you don't have AS 9100, NADCAP itself having one requirement, AC 7004, that needs to be compliant. So you have two options. If you are a manufacturing organization performing some special process, you must have a basic QMS. If you are a laboratory, independent laboratory who perform only testing like NDT, I'm doing only testing, right? Those organizations may have at least 17025. In India, we call it as enable accreditation, right? If you don't have enable accreditation, equivalent to that, they have a requirement AC 7006. Either this, if you are a manufacturer, you should have. If you are an independent testing laboratory, you should have. This is the basic prerequisite of this process. Okay, so this is the flow. First of all, register yourself in AIDAT as a supplier, identify who is your subscriber, then explore applicable commodity. After preparing well, then only you can schedule your audit, because there is a risk here. Once you schedule your audit, just like that, you cannot change or you cannot postpone the audit date. There is a fine penalty involved in that, right? So on the date of audit, you should have a valid quality management system in place. Before 30 days of the actual date of the audit, you must have conducted some self-audit and job audit and upload all this data to the NADCAP auditor. Then the audit will happen on the facility. It will be always physical audit. Based on the audit outcome, everything will go to the task group. Task group will take a decision on granting the accreditation or not. So this is the overall process. So these are the simple steps. The critical step is prepare well. Consider ITAR. If there is any ITAR part, which means non-US citizen cannot able to audit. So auditor has to come from US only. If it is non-ITAR part, that's fine. They will assign some auditors. So ensure your process, equipments, personals, infrastructure, everything is qualified in line with the applicable checklist and industry standard. And critical factor is this, because the job audit is what? Nothing but the audit performed on your shop floor. 60% of audit time will be spent only on the shop floor with the operators, inspectors, supervisors. So make sure people are trained on this. They should know what they do in line with the applicable requirements, right? This is how the NADCAP process is being done. And what will happen during audit? Remember, once the auditor entered your facility, you have to confirm your scope. That day, maybe some of the furnace may not working. You may have applied for heat treatment. You have 4 furnaces. You are planning to do in all 4. 1 furnace is not there. So you can review whether the scope is correct. Do we want to add or want to modify anything, which minor changes? Anyway, subject to task group review or staff engineer review, they will accept it. So once the scope is done, you demonstrate. Sometimes physical hardware may not available. That also you have to inform well in advance to the auditor, so that rarely they will accept historical data. But most of the time, the live hardware, physical hardware to be demonstrated in front of the auditor. And they will do step-by-step job audit from your special process initiation, from the receipt of item from stores till its final testing. The whole process will be audited as per the applicable checklists. So based on the outcome, they will be granting the certificate. And there is one more thing, based on the severity, the non-conformities may be classified into major or minor. And there are some audit policy. If more number of major NCs or more number of minor NCs, they have a threshold. If that exceeds, your audit may be concluded as a failed audit. You may not get NADCAP. So there are some risk factors involved in this. Once the non-conformities are reported, which is within the threshold, you have to respond with proper RCCA. NADCAP have their own RCCA process that's supposed to be followed and submitted. And here also there is one requirement. Within 21 days, you have to respond your NCR, and you have only 4 response cycles. If you are exceeding this 4 response cycle, again you will fail in your audit. So audit fail, there are multiple options are there. So you have to be very careful on this. What will happen? Sometime auditor will raise a non-conformity. Later, task group may reject that non-conformity. Or auditor may raise one non-conformity. Later, task group may review and they may make it, no, this is not adequate. We have to put one more non-conformity. Some rarely it will happen. So be prepared for everything. Right? This is how the NADCAP process will grant it. So finally, you will get your NADCAP approval. The certificate looks like this. And there are some failure options, as I mentioned. So audit failure means there are, for example, unethical behavior, fraudulent activity, counterfeit parts being observed, reported, then the audit may be failed. You will have invalid AS 9100 certificate on the date of audit, that also considered as a audit failure. So these are some of the risks involved. And these are the different commodities available. I just flash few things: electronics, bare PCBs, then flexible rigid PCBs, then assemblies, PCB assemblies, cable harness, on multiple each commodity, there are NADCAP available. If you're doing only cable harness, so you can select main checklist and cable harness. That's it. This is what applicable to you. Similarly, welding, for each commodity, they have a checklist. Even recently, additive manufacturing also, there is a commodity available under welding. And chemical processing, of course, all type of chemical processing, they have a separate checklist, anodizing, passivation, everything. Entity, of course, all QT, MT, PT, RT, there is a requirements. So depends on the scope, what you do, you can select this. Coatings, different type of coatings. Surface enhancements, even short peening, everything can be considered. Non-conventional machining, EDMs, right? And conventional machining, rarely some of the subscriber mandates this, specifically even turning, milling, they consider this is a critical process for them, for their part. So they mandate NADCAP for this. So what to consider? Visit this website, eauditnet.com. Lot of resources, plenty of resources are freely available. Explore this. Sometimes what will happen, there is no subscriber requirement. Nobody asking us to go for NADCAP as on today, but I wanted to go. I wanted to get new customers. I wanted to explore this. There is an option because it's like chicken or egg, right? So you have to write to PRI saying that presently I don't have any active subscriber, but I would like to get. Even some subscriber says even to give RFQ, they expect NADCAP from you, right? So that is also possible. Without subscriber requirement, you can plan for NADCAP, right? Ensure you have a valid quality management system, either AS 9100. Remember, AS 9100 should be valid certificate, authentic certificate, and you cannot exclude special process in your AS certificate. So these are some of the things you have to consider. I would like to show these numbers. This will give some fair idea. As on today, there are 105 facilities are having NADCAP in India. Majority of them in Karnataka. Tamil Nadu, as on today, we have 15. Similarly, AS 9100. If you look at this figure, 2 years back, I have the same statistics. There are drastically a lot of changes, irrespective of this pandemic. People are getting a lot of requirements to go for the certification. So this is some of the figures. So there are a lot of resources available you can explore. And as a company, what we do, Nucleus Consultant, we do multiple services for NADCAP. We provide only awareness training on commodity specific. We do gap analysis sometime, and we'll do implementation training also, and we'll do complete consulting project, handholding project. So multiple services we do. And this is our some of the clients where we provided NADCAP accreditation services and multiple commodities, welding for Renaissance Aerospace initially. That was almost 6 years back. India's first electronics company was did by me with Renaissance Aerospace, Renaissance Electronics that was, now it is Cyient. Then Asako. Azad recently we did for fluid distribution system, Azad and JJG Aero. Polyos is again first company in India who got fluid distribution system for NADCAP. I was involved with them. So this is what about us. We are simple a management system consulting organization providing consulting training services. This is our portfolio for aviation, space and defense industry. We provide a 9100 series of standard services. Recently, aero engine industry, AS 13100 also we do. Some of the portfolio for us. We provide service to other sectors like medical device, automotive, railways. So that's what all about us. Okay, I'll leave it to the coordinator for the Q&A sessions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for being very informative. I request the participants, if they have any questions, maybe you can post it in the chat box. Now, Mr. Franklin Datti, Secretary AIDAT, will be hosting the Q&A session, and followed by a request him to deliver the concluding remarks as well. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, William. And first of all, thank you both the speakers, Mr. Karthik and Ms. Vaishnavi, for a wonderful presentation and the knowledge about the reverse engineering, which is need for a day. The reverse engineering is need for the day, where the Ministry of Defense is working on the indigenization of the lot of the imported components. So that's a focus area. So Ms. Vaishnavi plays a major role in supporting the Atmanirbhar projects to bring down the tier 1, tier 2 companies to participate in the MOD. So the first question to Ms. Vaishnavi is that, can a spectroscope gives the constitution?
So regarding yes. So spectroscopy gives the composition of the part. There might be minor variations because the surface, most of the parts that we get are worn out parts. So there might be a change between the core of the component and the surface based on the location. But definitely spectroscopy is much faster than your conventional chemical testing.
Great. Thank you so much. Now the question is to Mr. Karthik.
Yes.
Regarding this, you gave us the option of two. One is that the chicken and egg story. You said that if the subscriber need a specific requirement, then we need to go for it, or we can write and get it done. Basically, how to a company to identify that, yes, really a new company who want to get into this, how to identify that I need some kind of a NADCAP process so that I can go to an aerospace company.
See, for a startups, new companies, they might have do well market research, right? What product portfolio they wanted to explore, what could be the potential customer. I'm going to serve with domestic ASD industry, or I'm going to deal with the international ASD industries, right? So based on their commodity, if a production line is more into electronics, I would focus electronics related. Within electronics, either cable harness or PCB. Similarly for heat treatment industry, chemical processing industry. So the majority of NADCAPs are in these 4 commodities: NDT, chemical processing, heat treatment, welding. Always the numbers are in hundreds plus. The other commodities are recently started. So it depends on the strength, what would be their industrial capability, what would be the potential business. So they can always reach their customers or potential customers, try to come up with their business plan, negotiate with them, come up with the MOU. That is the way to approach it.
Great, thanks. So any new companies, since it's a startup or anything, what kind of cost we need to allocate for certification of this NADCAP?
Yes, sir. See, one thing, the NADCAP price list is fixed. Either the auditor comes from USA, auditor comes from your next door, the cost is same, because the cost includes all auditor traveling, accommodation, everything. Approximately, I could say 4 days audit, it comes around $8,000. This is the payment you have to go to pay to PRI, but the other costs are involved, like qualifying your equipments, qualifying personals, right? Those are the other costs we have to consider.
Okay, so on an average, it will be some 3 lakhs to 4 lakhs we need to budget?
It depends, sir. Existing maturity level. If the system is not matured, start from scratch, it may vary. But the price to PRI is very fixed, approximately $8,000 US.
Great, thank you. Now, one case study for Ms. Vaishnavi. I think Ms. Vaishnavi might have gone through. The sleeve has a hole on the hollow cylinder surface with the steps like turning. The ID is 6.5 and the OD is 16 and with a length of 70 mm. Heat treatment is quenching and tempering. The hardness of HRC is 60 to 63. Carburizing and the surface hardening with the depth of HR 15N 90 to 91.5. So their final NABL report always says that it is not qualified, but the product passed through this thing. So what is this adequacy of going through this?
I'll just cut, copy, paste the question to the board so that, TJ sir is able to see the.
Yeah, please.
Yes. This is the question, TJ. This is from Mr. Arun. Let me just.
The question is a bit long, so I need to concentrate and understand.
1 minute. We will just. So this is the question. It's from Arun on heat treatment. The sleeve has holes on the hollow cylindrical surface with steps. Yeah, you can read.
Okay. To get into the details of material without understanding the microstructure would be a bit difficult, and I do not know what is the acceptance standard. But we were talking about the NABL report said it is not qualified, it gets passed through. What does it mean by pass through? I need to understand that particular issue. If it means that it gets accepted on concession, right? I think this should be taken more on offline basis, because the question is not generic, but very, very specific to particular component. And also, we always say in heat treatment, metallurgy, it's more of an art than science. There are small things which can matter on the final result. So
got it. So I may request Arun
contacts individually.
Yes.
We would definitely attend to that.
Is Mr. Arun from Ayyappan Engineering?
Okay, he has not responded. So I already you have shared your contact details.
Yes.
And Mr. Arun will be in touch with you for this specific question.
Sure.
Now, I think he is from Ayyappan Engineering only. So he will be get in touch with you about this.
Sure.
Now, with respect to the reverse engineering, definitely you will get only the components. So you need to do a lot of work with respect to the scanning, then the dimension, then you need to break down the part, tear down analysis. It's really a hectic work you need to go through on this. So what kind of tools you use or what kind of softwares you use to get into this?
So thank you for the question. First of all, there are a lot of 3D scanning players available in the AIDAT community. So EQUAD always takes their support. We take their support. That is one portion of support that we take. In terms of software, if you look at our capability, we have in-house capability for engineers to work in 2D drafting, 3D modeling and analysis softwares. It can be CAD, SolidWorks, CATIA, Creo, ANSYS, and all of that. But the licensed software that we have is SolidWorks. We also depute our engineers because every end user wants a particular type of software, a particular version of software. So we end up deputing our engineers to their locations to be able to use on a specific. We do the maximum work in at our venue at SolidWorks. Then for the final stages, for the conversions, we depute our engineers to kind of change the format to their particular software. That is something, but the capability in-house is available. We have engineers knowing all or most commonly used softwares is known to us.
Great, thank you so much. So now the question is to Mr. Karthik.
Yes.
Now, what is the time frame we need to have for, see, one is AS 9100 itself will take a year's time, or you need to have 18 months time. Then immediately you need to go for a NADCAP. So as a company, what kind of planning we need to do for NADCAP? How much time it takes?
Yes, sir. So if you have already AS 9100 in place, we would recommend minimum 6 to 8 months time. You need to schedule your audit. See, after 6 months only you can able to schedule. Again, audit also just like that. We cannot, I'm ready, just come and audit. No, we need to plan it at least 3 months in advance. So I could say 8 months is the approximate time if you have a very good system in place.
Got it. Thank you. And audience, we are waiting for furthermore questions. We'll wait for a minute, or we'll go for a word of thanks. Any questions, please drop into the chat box. Our speakers, both Ms. Vaishnavi as well as Mr. Karthik, are available to answer your questions. Good to go. I think we had good questions, and also we had a very good session. First of all, I would like to thank the SICKI, William, for hosting this event nicely. So this program is jointly done by AIDAT and SICKI, supported by TIDCO. So we thank the organizing committee of AIDAT, SICKI and TIDCO. And we had a very good speakers, and the need of the day speaker one is the reverse engineering. And we're really thankful so much. She is very crystal clear in her presentation. Quick, 20 minutes, quick, what they are doing, what kind of supports need for the reverse engineering, what are the mistakes, and what are the misconception happening on this reverse engineering. She is very clear and elaborately she has done. And they are ready to work with all the member companies or even non-member companies for their indigenization program. And we have a rich experienced person, Mr. Jayaraman, also along with he is the MD of that company. So thank you so much, sir, for participating in this program. So, and thank you so much for accepting this as when we requested from AIDAT. Thank you so much. And Mr. Karthik, I mean, we travel with Karthik for almost 4 years from now. And we have AIDAT is having a very good kind of a relationship with him. And he supports the member company on all the certification of AS 9100 as well as the NADCAP. And he is very clear in his presentation. We said that we need a NADCAP introduction. And he touched upon all the introduction, what you want, what you should not do. And he is a consultant. He has not got into the details. So you need to get in touch with him, get the consultancy, and he will guide you on to get things done for any specific requirements. And thank you so much, Mr. Karthik, for giving us a wonderful insight about the NADCAP process. And thank you, everyone. This is a year-end. Still, you people, almost 53 to 54 participants are there. This shows that what kind of interest you are having on the NADCAP and the reverse engineering. So this program is not success without your participation. So I thank each and one and all for this wonderful time. Thank you so much. And these recordings will be available in the AIDAT YouTube channel. And also you people can reach individual companies for your respective reverse engineering or a NADCAP process or a AS91 certification. And we love to work with you all. Thank you one and all. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. See you. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much. Thank you.